Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Hey, what's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to another edition of Strikes and Submissions here at TWSN. Here, your host, Dorian Wright, along with my co-host, Michael Daly. Mike, how we feeling tonight?
I'm electric, man. We have as good of a week in combat sports as it gets, so I'm ready to talk about it, Dorian.
Yes, sir. And first and foremost, guys, make sure we drop a like on the video, subscribe to the TWSN YouTube page. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And you can follow me here. Got my finger right that time. And, of course, Michael's Twitter is in the description. And we got a lot of news this week and some big fights coming up to talk about. So jump straight into it. Mike, we start off with the UFC featherweight champion. Women's featherweight champion, Amanda Nunes, no longer double champ. She just left her gym, American Top Team. It's rumored, but it looks like she's going to start her own gym, try to transition into that portion of her career. Mike, what were your original thoughts on that? And do you think it'll have any effect on her next fights or upcoming fights? Or how do you see this going?
This alarmed me, Dorian. I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, you never want to see a champion, and not just a champion, but one of the greatest fighters in MMA history, immediately after a loss, move on from their gym. It's not a good look. We've seen it happen in boxing before, where a fighter loses, then they jump ship to another gym. Sometimes it works, but other times it really doesn't. I don't think this is the right move here, because American Top Team got her to the dance, got her to the supremacy of mixed martial arts, and now she's going to leave to do her own thing. Look, I'm not here to tell anyone from a business standpoint or a life standpoint what to do. I'm just saying what I think is best for Amanda Nunes is sticking it out at ATT and trying to get a rematch against Juliana Pena. I don't see how this is a good move. I don't know how you feel, Dorian, but I don't think this is a good move from a business standpoint or a career standpoint.
So I think it's hard to tell how good of a move it'll be just yet. Obviously, it has to play out. But off first rip, I'm with you. It was very alarming. Usually, if you leave a gym, there's some rifts. And like Dash said below, I was going to bring that up. This might not be her decision. It might be, hey, you just lost to Juliana Pena. We're going to start favoring Kayla Harrison as our next star, which is kind of a slap in the face, if true, due to the fact that she does still hold a featherweight title. But obviously, we don't know if the featherweight division, how long it'll be in the UFC, if it'll be in the UFC. I think they have about 7 fighters total. So, and not to mention, she's cleaned them out from the most part. So, yeah, first thought was just very alarming that she would leave the gym after a loss. She didn't get beat so badly to the point where you would change gyms. It seemed like she lost because maybe she didn't prepare properly. But when I sat back and I really thought about this is a good move for her. I think when you have Kayla Harrison coming up, yeah, she's in PFL currently, or she may go to Bellator, but she's a free agent. If she comes to the UFC, it will be, hey, you're fighting Amanda, if not the first fight, in the second fight. You know, they're not going to throw Kayla Harrison a tune-up fight. She's undefeated, Olympic gold medalist. So the competition was there with Amanda before she even got to the UFC. So Kayla still hasn't signed. We don't know where she's going. Some rumors have said she's leaning towards PFL again. But if I truly believe if the gym is going in the direction of Kayla, it's just best for Amanda to leave because she has the cachet enough to start her own gym to the point where she's going to have fighters come. She's going to have probably a lot more women fighters come to her gym, and maybe she can be the first powerhouse women's MMA, kind of like how Uriah Faber's alpha males, like mostly bantamweights, flyweights, small guys. If she can build up a female powerhouse gym, I think that would be amazing for her career.
Dorian, I don't think it would be amazing for her career because there's no guarantee she's going to be able to build up this gym to rival American Top Team. Let's face it. whatever Amanda Nunes decides to do with her career, it will be compared to the success of ATT. And it will be compared to the success of Kayla Harrison. I don't see how this is a good move because obviously something went wrong. Obviously, she didn't like what was happening at American Top Team, or else she would still be there.
You have potential to be right, but if Amanda comes out and says, "Hey, the split was mutual. I got what I wanted from them. They got what they wanted out of me. They got 2 belts out of her."
I don't see how that's possible, though. It's mutual after a loss. It'd be different, right? If she went on or continued her long win streak, and then she's like, you know what? It's time to move on. I've won. You've won as a gym as well. Let's go our separate ways. No, this is coming after a loss where she was a minus 900 favorite to win.
True, and that's why I would side with you. But in all actuality, AT&T has problems when and we can talk about it briefly, but when Dustin Colby, Jorge Colby, like we've seen ATT have problems. It's a huge, huge mega gym. So you're going to have 2 fighters in the same division who are eventually going to cross paths. And how do you deal with that? We saw it with Kamar Usman and Gilbert Burns a lot recently. One of the guys has to leave the gym just because I think it looks away because she's leaving after a loss. I think that's kind of where we would agree. But as far as her leaving, I think if she does build a powerhouse gym for females or just a powerhouse gym in general in 5, say 10 years, we'll look back at it and like, wow, Amanda left. Maybe she retires next fight. Who knows what Amanda's thinking. She has 2 belts. I'm sure she has a ton of money. She can do a lot of things. She doesn't have to take the rematch. She doesn't have to defend the featherweight belt necessarily. So she has some downtime. Maybe this was one of her passions. Maybe she wanted to do this since he was younger. Maybe it's going to be a gym in Brazil. She's going to give back to the community. Like, we don't know enough to speculate, to say this is all bad. But optics, I agree with you. It does look a little bad.
I don't really see right now how it can look good. Look, Amanda Nunes is easily the greatest female mixed martial arts fighter in history. So if anyone's going to go their own way and do their own thing, it would be her. However, I just don't see how this is a good look for her because it just appears that she got so used to winning that now she has to scrap everything and figure everything out on her own. The only way I see this panning out, or I see the reason why she did this, is that she wants to regain control of her career. She wants to essentially be her own trainer because I'm telling you right now, Dorian, she's handpicking her next trainer. She's handpicking everything in her career.
Yeah, she has, it's her gym now. Yeah. It'll be her responsibility to pick the trainers and coaches that come. And we don't know. Again, it's very early. What if some coaches from AT&T come with her? Maybe not all, but say 2 or 3 of her closest jiu-jitsu coach, her head coach. Obviously, I'm assuming her wife is going to come along with her. If it's that, I can't say it's a bad thing because of the loss. Because like you said, she's the GOAT. She's built up enough cachet to do whatever she wants or to not do whatever. If she just wants to do her own thing, go out on a limb, she has the right. Similar to how Jackson Wink, MMA, and John Jones. Now, granted, that was some outside the octagon stuff that he says he got kicked out. But John Jones said it himself. He's like, hey, I was doing all the same stuff and I was winning belts and you let me stay. Don't kick me out now because I'm not active. So we don't know if it was an issue like that. We don't know, but
yeah, we don't know.
Hopefully it all works out well. Hopefully she does build another powerhouse gym because the more the merrier, let's be honest. We don't want, just the ATT and, AKA to just dominate mixed martial arts for the remainder. So build some more gyms. I like it. I'm a fan. But moving along, we do have some Bellator news. Finally, Bellator has been a little bit quiet with the news lately, but my boy's back, Mike. MVP Michael Venom Page is back against Yaroslav Amosov, going to get that welterweight strap. Obviously, he most recently beat Diego Lima. Oh, they both beat, not Diego, Douglas Lima for the welterweight belt. MVP just beat Lima in their rematch. I think it was a split decision. It was a real close fight. Could have went either way. Mike, I'm excited about this fight. I think MVP has been overlooked for a long time in Bellator. A lot of people say, oh, he's fighting cans. He's not fighting the high-level competition that there is in Bellator at his division. And then when he did fight, he got knocked out by Lima, so it looked really bad. It looked like the fans were right, but he's been on a tear lately, and he just got his win back over Douglas Lima in his hometown. I think he's ready for this title shot, Mike. I don't know what you think about this one.
He is ready for it. It's either him or Jason Jackson. I was going back and forth between those two as to who I thought should get it. MVP's the bigger name, though. He is. And I think that's why he got it, because if you could take out Douglas Lima, even in 2021 or 2022, you are championship material. That's what you are. You're on that level where you can fight for a world title and no one would really question it. I understand that point. He's still a massive name, but he's going to have a tough test in front of him. I think the winner of this fight will become Bellator's next big thing. And I'm not saying MVP isn't already or that he's not a star already.
Yeah.
But if you beat Yaroslav Amosov, especially if you do it in convincing fashion, my goodness, you are going to be running your own table right now. And for Amosov, if you can add another name to your list, such as Michael Venom Page, after you had just dominated Douglas Lima for 5 rounds, and if you could do the same thing to Michael Venom Page, at that point, the world is your oyster if you're Yaroslav Amosov. I will say, I think there is more pressure on Page heading into this fight. I do think, Dorian, there's more pressure on him because he had to fight to get back to this point. He had to beat guys like Derek Anderson, and then obviously Lima. That was a fight that could have gone either way. You lose this fight to Amosov, then you're back to square one. Whereas for Amosov, yes, he's the champ, but no one really expected him to get here. He was a relative unknown before he got the fight against Lima. So I think there's a lot more pressure and a lot more hanging in the balance for MVP than Amosov.
I agree 100%. This is a moment for Amosov to get his name to the masses. And it sounds crazy because he's the champion. Like, you would assume as the champ, you're the bigger name. It's not true.
Right.
And off the top of my head, I can only think of maybe 2 fighters that are bigger than MVP in Bellator. And that would be Chris Cyborg, who's the champion, and maybe, just maybe, Pitbull. And I don't even know if Pitbull's that anymore after just being dethroned by AJ McKee. So you're talking about a top 3 face of the company. Yeah, this is a good head to have on your mantle if you're Amosov. And for those who don't know, he's 26-0, never even been close to coming to a loss. Obviously, the Lima fight, 5 rounds, pure domination, very grapple heavy, typical grappler versus striker matchup. And if Page can pull out a big knockout win, I think it sets up the trilogy with Douglas Lima for a title. I think if Douglas Lima does have to get through Jason Jackson, of course, but if they match them for a trilogy, for a belt, that would be the biggest fight Bellator can put on. Name value, marketing, anything, because MVP is probably their highest seller if I'd have to guess. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good fight. Great for the promotion overall. You got a striker, got a grappler. Fireworks are bound to happen, or MVP's bound to get dragged into deep waters and taken advantage of, like a lot of people think that he would if he fought higher level competition. So one side of the fence will be the correct side of the fence at the end of the day.
It will be. I wonder where more people lean toward, because I know you, Dorian, you like to go with the grappler in that situation. You like to side with the grappler. I see Amosov, and I'm projecting here, right? If he's able to win this fight, I see him in a way kind of being compared to Ben Askren. Because if you remember, when Ben Askren was at Bellator and won championship, he was running through everybody. And there was always that question, what is he going to do if he gets to the next level? The next level being the UFC. I think if Amosov is able to dominate MVP and go on a crazy winning streak, there could be talks of him potentially seeing what's out there, whether it's the UFC, whether it's staying with Bellator, PFL, you name it. There are other options out there for him if he doesn't want to stay with Bellator for the rest of his career.
Yeah, I think it would be likely that he starts to push the envelope a little bit, get a little more money from Bellator, or more marketing, whatever he wants for his career, if he can get a win over MVP for sure. And it's funny you brought up Ben Askren. Amosov doesn't remind me of Ben Askren, but now that you said that, their paths seem to be a little similar. Both undefeated, heavy grappling. They're just going to wrestle you, get you to the ground, drag you into those deep waters, and win the fight that way. If MVP can knock out Amosov, this might be a Jorge Ben Askren type of moment in which no one saw it coming, or no one saw it coming like this, in 5 seconds, flying knee, knockout, huge, super necessary. It blew Jorge up to this megastar. Even though the Bellator doesn't have the PR machine that the UFC does, I do think this can elevate MVP to even a higher level than he already is, to being the face of Bellator. And if he wants, this might be his ticket to the UFC, in all honesty.
Remember when he knocked out Cyborg in 2016 and threw the Pokemon ball? He was hotter than fish grease at that point. I mean, he was in control of the world in MMA. He had the pick of the litter at that point. If he does the same thing to Amosov, what would that be, 6 years later? Again, the world is his oyster.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see. I don't see a date for it just yet, but it looks like they're working that on their end. So hopefully it's sooner than later. Hopefully we can get that before the summer.
It'll be in London, right? I
saw something that said it would be in London. It looks like May 13th is the targeted date at the SSE Arena in Wembley, London. So back-to-back fights for Michael Venom Page in his home country. That clearly shows you Bellator is pushing MVP to be the face, but Amosov can be the spoiler, I guess. I don't know. Spoiler party guy. I don't know the term I was looking for, but he can definitely spoil some things. Speaking of spoilers, Mike, you picked correct for the first time in a long time.
Finally.
Right. For the first time in a long time. Calvin Kattar spoils the Chikadze party. Giga said, yo, give me the title shot. I don't care if I got to fight next week. He had me. I'm like, yo, he about to walk through Kattar and replace Korean Zombie for this title shot. I'll let you go first because you earned it and you picked correct. But Kattar absolutely did everything except finish Giga Chikadze. So I'll give you the floor because I was wrong. I'll give you your flowers, Mike. You got it right one time.
I'm not going to rub it in, Dorian, but I am going to take a little bit of a victory lap here for myself, because usually when I pick the underdog, they don't win.
Yeah, they get
usually
stopped.
That's what happens. Usually I only get it right when I go with the favorite. But I just saw something different this time around in terms of the hype. Everyone was saying, oh, Giga's going to land those signature Giga kicks. Giga's going to dictate everything. And I'm thinking to myself, Calvin Kattar knows how to dirty box. Calvin Kattar is a tremendous boxer. He might not be as good as Max Holloway, but he's pretty close. He's pretty good. So before the fight, I just thought to myself, people need to give Kattar a little bit more respect. With that being said, though, Giga should have won that fight. In terms of the matchup, in terms of the momentum and everything heading into it, if you're Giga Chikadze, you should be able to handle Calvin Kattar. But I think the problem for Giga here was that he looked too far ahead. That was the problem. And I think that's why he lost, because he did not prepare for Kattar's grappling. He did not prepare for Kattar's clinch work and Kattar's ability to crowd the kicker. He didn't see that coming. And that's a big reason why Chikadze lost, Dorian. So I think moving forward, no one can count out Calvin Kattar. I don't care who he's fighting.
Yeah, I 100% totally agree. I will no longer overlook Calvin Kattar. I was one who thought Giga would just walk through him. Kattar may have a very short career. I mean, I saw a stat and I put it in the chat for us to see. He's absorbed more strikes in this fight and the Max fight, just his last 2 5-round fights, than I think it was 91% of any other fighter in UFC history has absorbed in their careers. Last 2 fights absorbing that type of punishment is not a recipe to last. But that's way too far in the future. I don't want to look ahead because we saw what happens when Giga looked ahead. He got stomped. So with all due respect, Calvin Kattar does take a lot of shots, but he can give a lot of shots too. Mm-hmm. He was touching Max early on, not so much in the later rounds. Max is slipping and talking to the commentators. But with Giga, I saw the very same thing happen. Giga came out, walked him down, was putting it on him. And in my head, I'm like, oh, yeah, easy money, going just as I thought it was. It wasn't until Calvin Kattar got a takedown and he saw, hey, this guy's human. He's not immortal just because he's on a 7 or 8 fight win streak. He can be touched. He can be taken down. I can hold him here. And then I think he hit him with a spinning back elbow. I don't know if that was the first or the second round. I can't remember. But I think that just anything spinning, you have my attention. I'm a fan. But that type of strike changes momentum for the duration of the remainder of the fight. And after he hit that spinning elbow, it was all but downhill for Giga. When he went to his corner, Calvin's coaches said, hey, we're up 1-0. Go forward and keep putting him on his back foot. When he's on his back foot, you can't kick. You can't kick going backwards. I challenge anybody who's at home right now, try to walk backwards and throw a kick. If you don't fall, the kick's not going to be that hard.
Or you're going to get hurt because there's going to be a shot coming your way, which is that's honestly, Dorian, what I think Giga was fearful of, those shots coming backwards because he's being crowded.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with Kattar absorbing as many shots as he did throughout the 25 minutes, because he has one of the best chins. I know I said Max has the best chin ever. Calvin's not too far behind. But yeah, when Giga was on his back foot, you effectively took away his kicking and you made it a boxing match. And I agree with you on the show. Calvin Kattar has some great boxing. New England Cartel, they're just known for their boxing. And I think that's what got him the win. I don't think he attempted a takedown for the remainder of the fight because Giga was gassed, and moving backward isn't going to help you regain that stamina back. So I think Calvin did a great job, did everything but finish him, and just about a year apart did what Max did to him. And I think that is great for his career trajectory. It was going down quickly with all the concussion issues he was having. But after beating Giga, he stays in the top 5, if you ask me, and he's 1 or 2 fights away from a belt.
He is, without a doubt. And you know what? I will say for Giga, this isn't the end of the road either.
Absolutely not.
But he does have some work to do, and I think this is a great example for him to not look ahead. He was more focused on what the Korean Zombie had to say than his own loss. I'm sorry, you just lost to Calvin Kattar. That should be your primary focus. You shouldn't be worried about the Korean Zombie and what he has to say about your loss. I think he just has to readjust that focus, get back to the drawing board, and get some wins. Because Calvin Kattar even said it. Giga is an excellent fighter. You don't go on a 7-fight winning streak in the UFC for nothing. There's a reason why you went on that against stiff competition, by the way, too. Giga has the shot to get back on a run like that, but he needs to figure out what went wrong.
Absolutely. And Giga, I think, for one, needs to take a little bit of time off to heal up. Same for Calvin. But if I'm looking ahead just a little bit, please, Calvin Kattar, Brian Ortega, battle of who has the best chin. Can we just book that? Can we just put Brian on ice until that's done? I know Brian, he fought, what was that, September? So yeah. He might be ready for a fight coming up. But can we just put him on ice for a little longer? I want to see him and Kattar go at it.
You know what, Dorian? That would be an outstanding fight. Right now, because you just brought up that, just triggered something in my mind. Ortega's going to strike, but man, if Ortega develops a smart game plan, he's going to try to submit Kattar. Kattar's not an easy guy to submit, but Kattar, I think, is a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's
it ain't
yeah,
Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt Ortega.
It's not T-City.
Yeah, it's not.
So if I'm Ortega, I'm like, you know what? Give me that matchup, and I'm going to submit this guy, and I'm going to get back to where I was.
Yeah, I think Kattar stays in the top 5 with this, and he needs a top 5 opponent. I'm all for it, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes at 45. But if I have my say, Ortega, and for Giga, not for nothing, can we see him? Who do I want Giga to fight? Let's put Giga against a prospect. Maybe the winner of Topuria Ivalov.
Ooh.
Or I think Ivalov pulled out of that fight. Never mind. I don't know. That may be too high of a jump from non-ranked to top 5. But I don't know. Give him some time off. We'll see other fighters' timeline and see how that goes. But I know for a fact I want Kattar Ortega next. And it has to be a main event. I don't want to see Calvin Kattar in anything less than a 5-round fight ever again. Because he's shown he can take the punishment and he can dole it out as well. You got to give him 25 minutes to work. But speaking of,
you can go, Dorian.
I was gonna say, speaking of 25 minutes, we got 2 25-minute fights coming up this weekend at UFC 270, and obviously we'll do a 270 show on Saturday for you guys to give you a little breakdown. But man, this is the hardest title fight I think I've ever picked in my entire life. Obviously, I'm talking about Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane. Then the second title fight, another hard one to pick, Brandon Moreno, Davison Figueiredo. Man, who do you have in the first matchup? We can start with the flyweights.
For the flyweights, I feel like right now everyone is picking Brandon Moreno. And I understand it. The way he was able to get Figueiredo's back, choke him out in the 3rd round in surprise fashion, that was impressive. And that added on to his performance from the first fight 6 months prior to that. Many people thought he should have won the first fight that ended in a draw. But I feel like Davison Figueiredo thrives off being the underdog in life. Look at where he's come from and the fact that he's here now. There were fights where he's missed weight. He has been counted out.
Title fights, he missed weight.
Yeah, against Joseph Benavidez. There have been times where a lot of people just looked past Davison Figueiredo, myself included. I thought Benavidez in what should have been their rematch, I thought he was going to win. I thought Benavidez was going to beat Figueiredo handily, and I was wrong. Figueiredo showed that he's a monster. And that's what he is, Dorian. Figueiredo, to me, is a monster. So from a technical standpoint, if he's able to take control of the center of the octagon with his strikes, if he's able to move around, cut off the ring, and avoid being taken down, which is easier said than done, by Moreno, he might get his title back. And right now, I have him winning his title. I have him retaining that title that he lost at UFC 263.
I'm glad we're on the same page here. I also have Figgy winning this one. And I have it for a little bit of different reasoning. I think Moreno, after winning the belt, obviously you go on your championship parade, you're doing your media. But it never seemed as if Brandon Moreno sat down and just kind of let it soak and then eventually get back to the grind. And he said it himself. I watched his pre-fight presser. He said, hey, this training camp's been my toughest ever. Not because it's physically tough, but it's just every day I'm training once, I'm going back home, I'm doing 2 interviews, and I'm training again. It's draining. That being a champion is everything it's worked up to be, but there's also cons to that. And Moreno's been talking extremely confident, which I have no problem with the guy speaking with confidence. You're the champ. You should be confident. You just choked the guy out. But it's almost seems as if he's overlooking him. And one thing I want to touch on with both of the title fights, there's big storylines behind this. Henry Cejudo and Brandon Moreno, former training partners. He used to live with Cejudo back when he was in the UFC, and Moreno was fighting on the regional circuit to get in. Some Ultimate Fighter stuff happened when Henry picks Pantoja with the first pick and didn't know that was sending Moreno to the other team, and Moreno felt the way. Blase. Later down the line, Moreno actually started helping Henry Cejudo's opponent as a training partner to beat Henry. Henry took that as a little disrespect. Yo, I let you live with me, all this. Now you're helping a guy beat me? Okay, watch this. Henry beats the guy and goes on to win the flyweight belt. Obviously, champ, retires. Now it's coming around full circle. Moreno got kicked out, got in the UFC, got kicked out of the UFC, came back, is now the champ, beat Figueiredo. Now Figueiredo goes to Cejudo's gym in Arizona. Now Cejudo's helping Figgy beat Moreno. I think that's a big storyline that isn't being talked about enough. And I think it's being overlooked just because the main event storyline is just as juicy and almost the same thing. But I think that matters. I think Cejudo may know something and can help Figueiredo with his game plan to be more like the first fight. I just don't know if he can get a finish because Moreno's tough. He has a chin, and that first fight showed it. They both fought on, I think it was 3 weeks apart from pay-per-views. Figgy's headlining back-to-back, and he walked him down the entire fight. And if it wasn't for a cup shot and a point taken away, Figgy's walking out with, he did walk out with his belt, but Figgy's walking out with a win. Mm-hmm. And that's important. Moreno in the second fight made key adjustments, got him to the ground, choked him out. But in the third fight, I don't know if those same adjustments will be there. I'm rolling with Figgy, and I think it's going to be a unanimous decision this time.
Henry Cejudo is an X factor. Look at how he helped Zhang Weili against Rose Namajunas back in November. Granted, Weili didn't win that fight in the rematch against Rose.
On my card, she did. I thought she won the first three. And not for nothing, it was a split. So, going from getting knocked out in 2-3 minutes or however long it was against Rose the first time to going to a split decision, that's major improvements. But continue.
And then Cejudo, I think he's an X factor, not only for Zhang Weili, but he will be for Figueiredo. Clearly, he's working on wrestling defense. But don't be surprised if Figueiredo tries some trips in there or if he tries his own wrestling offense. I think that could be a possibility. All in all, I see Deiveson Figueiredo getting his hand raised and having his belt back. Like you said, Moreno, he's a great guy. Everyone loves how sweet he is. And look, he's an assassin as well. He's the babyface assassin for a reason. But I think he played a little bit too much into that hero role because it was a contrast. Moreno is this lovable guy. Figueiredo, not so much. Figueiredo's the villain, has that stripe in his hair. Figueiredo is going to show why he was a monster in the 125-pound division. He's going to show it.
Absolutely. And I think Figgy's kind of being disrespected in this one, by not only by Moreno, but by a lot of people. I think a lot of people think it's just going to go the same way it did the second time. And if it does, it does, more power to Moreno. But I just don't see him walking through the power as he did in the first fight. But I don't know. I think this goes all 5. So we'll get another epic flyweight title fight because the first fight was the greatest flyweight title fight in history by far. And second one wasn't as good, but still a good fight nonetheless. But Figgy just didn't seem all the way there. This time he'll be there. Moving along to the heavyweights. I know you're the conductor of the Cyril Gane train. You've been on it since I think his JDS win. It was the first time I heard you speak about him after that. But Francis Ngannou, it's hard to pick against him, man. But who you got in the title fight and why?
Dorian, I hate picking against Francis Ngannou. I do, because I don't think there's ever been another heavyweight, maybe aside from Derek Lewis, who with one punch can just erase any deficit. That's what he is. However, we have seen Francis lose back-to-back fights. Now I know that was a very, very long time ago, and he's a much more improved fighter. But Francis lost to Stipe Miocic in January 2018, and Stipe fought a very technical fight. I think Ciryl Gane is going to fight a similar fight to that. And I know you can say Ngannou changed, all this and that. Ciryl knows that with one punch, his night can be over. So he is going to be smart. What do we always say, Dorian? A fighter zigged when he should have zagged. That's why he got knocked out. We always talk about that. That could be a possibility with Ciryl Gane. Moved left when he should have moved right, and then boom, Francis KO'd him. That's what happened against Stipe in the last fight. Stipe got a little too comfortable shooting in and paid the price for it when he had to stand up and had no other option. Ciryl Gane, though, I think it's going to be a little different. I think his footwork is too clean, and he has experience, and I know you disagree with this. He has experience, though, fighting a killer kickboxer in Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who, in a way, is kind of similar to Francis. Alexander Volkov didn't really land too many punches, and Derek Lewis, the greatest KO artist in MMA history, really didn't do anything against Ciryl Gane. So I say all that to say, Cyril's ready for the moment. And the hype train is real, because it's going to keep chugging along after Saturday night.
You know, I think Ciryl Gane's path to victory, he has a few paths. I think if he stays on the outside and tries to just point fight as he did against Jairzinho, I don't know if that'll work well for him. But he's going to have to do that. That's the only way he can stand up.
Yeah, he can't trade.
Yeah, let's be clear. He's not trading. No one's trading with Francis Ngannou. But I think if he stays on the outside and when he does come in, he has to take Francis down. If he doesn't get a takedown on Francis, he's losing this fight. And I know I said I would never pick against Ciryl Gane again. And I'm not going to pick against Ciryl Gane. But in this instance, I'm not picking Ciryl Gane because I am definitely not picking against Francis here. And I genuinely believe this is the greatest fight the UFC could have made, title-wise, maybe not storyline-wise, but storyline's pretty good. We can dive into that. Matchup-wise, like everything is just so perfect. France versus France, and everything is too perfect. But Francis only needs one, and it doesn't have to land clean. That's the difference between him and Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis can land one and knock you out, but it has to be a clean one. It has to be the uppercut when you're coming in like Curtis Blades. It has to be the right hand right on the chin as you're throwing a kick against Volkov in the last seconds of the fight. Francis doesn't really have to land clean. Francis, we've seen him against the same Jairzinho Ciryl fought, get tired of a couple leg kicks and just charge forward. You can only run so far. You're going to get hit by Francis. And I think Cyril's small sample size of sparring with him, as Francis said, between 6 and 8 times they've trained together. So that small sample size will help him. But I don't know how much, because Francis is not going 100% in sparring. You know, he's not trying to kill Ciryl Gane. He wouldn't have training partners if he went that hard. So I don't know really who will win this fight. But I do know the winner is going to be well-deserved, and the winner is going to win their way. So if Ciryl wins, it's going to be point fighting, taking him down, doing his work there. If Francis wins, clean knockout. There's no in-between. Francis isn't winning by decision. Francis isn't going to submit Ciryl. You know, Cyril's not going to submit Francis. Like, I don't see anything like that.
Are you fence-sitting here?
I am.
So you think that either so you're not really making a pick here?
Not at all. I can't. I don't know how you can feel so confident making a pick. I just, like, gun to my head right now, my heart, or this isn't my heart. This is why I can't even pick. My head says if I'm smart, I'm picking Ciryl Gane because he's more technical. His footwork is good. But at the same time, I just saw calm, patient Francis against Stipe absolutely null and void his entire game plan and knock him out in the second round.
Come on. Dorian, you know, right? Calm Francis, which is like an alter ego, I don't see that working against Cyril. The only way I see it working is from a standpoint of he's able to defend takedowns. But if you try to be calm and patient against Cyril Gane, you're playing right into his game. That's what Cyril wants. Cyril wants you to be patient and prod and poke, because that allows point fighting to develop. And that's why I think if the only way I really see Francis winning, aside from landing a punch Cyril doesn't see, is bum rushing Cyril. That's the only way I see it. I think he has to bull rush him and hope Cyril's cold. That's the only way I see him winning.
And what does Cyril do? Okay, you can step off and, let him bum rush. Okay, he missed once. Okay, he missed twice. If Francis, let's just say his game plan, bum rush the whole first round and then point fight from the second on, Cyril can't dodge and avoid all of these shots. I know his footwork is great. I know his head movement is okay. He can roll with the punches. I know. He's fought the hard hitters. He's fought Derek Lewis. He's fought Volkov. He's fought Jairzinho. He's fought JDS. I know. But Francis is a different breed. And that's why I'm fence sitting. Because if I pick Francis, I'd be disrespectful to Gane's technical abilities and everything that he brings to the table. But if I pick Cyril, I'm disrespecting Francis's. What happens when Francis looks across the cage, sees his old coach and goes, why don't you put that sparring footage out? I'm going to show you what I should have did in that sparring footage if I knew you were going to put it out, and bum rushes Cyril. He's going to hurt him bad.
How can you be so sure of that when Gane, what he can do, clinch Francis Ngannou, which is something he did against Derek Lewis. And I know you don't like to make the comparison to the two, but I'm going to make it here. It's hard to clinch Derek Lewis. It is. Unless you're shooting for a double, like where you're not really clinching.
Okay.
Cyril Gane was able to press Lewis up against the fence. And I don't know if you saw the highlight reel that's going around. Cyril Gane landed one of the craziest elbows I've ever seen. It was
I just rewatched that fight, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even doing it any service. He lifted his elbow up and over his shoulder and landed. Come on. I think there is a potential for Gane to work in the clinch, work inside, smother Francis Ngannou, and make it a tough night. Let's not act like guys haven't, or at least one guy hasn't done that before, Stipe Miocic.
Fair. My only counter to that would be, and I agree with everything you're saying, is Cyril stronger than Francis? Because Stipe didn't clinch with him. Stipe just shot the double, got him down. Stipe, state champion in Ohio, so he has the wrestling pedigree. I don't know if Cyril's wrestling pedigree is that good. He has a 20% takedown accuracy. So let's not just act like he's going to walk across the cage and just drop Francis on his ass. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a struggle in the clinch. And in that clinch, yes, he manhandled Derek Lewis. Just rewatched it. Francis is stronger than Derek Lewis. I don't know if he's stronger than Cyril. We'll see. But even so, if you clinch him, you better get him down. Because when you break the clinch, that check hook's coming that puts Stipe out of commission. I haven't seen Stipe's face since. Where's he at? Who's he fighting?
He's trying to fight John Jones. That's where he's at.
He don't want that either. But that's another story for another day. Yeah. But all I'm saying is when Francis touches you, it doesn't have to be the hardest shot. It doesn't have to be the cleanest shots. Face down, ass up. With all due respect. I know the kids are watching, but that's what he does. And Cyril's undefeated. He hasn't lost yet, so we don't see the chink in his armor. And there very well may be no chinks in his armor, and he can still get put out if Francis just walks forward and bum rushes him. Or runs forward like he did against Jairzinho. That's all I'm saying.
I get it. I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. If this was anyone else fighting Francis Ngannou, if it was even John Jones, I'm picking Francis Ngannou. But maybe it's because I'm biased, and I'll admit it, I am. Because I have been on the Cyril Gane bandwagon for a long time. I saw something in him after he beat Junior Dos Santos. I said, that guy right there who used to train with Francis Ngannou, he's something special. So maybe I'm biased. But in terms of a game plan, Cyril's not a big wrestler, but he can wrestle if need be. However, I expect Cyril to point fight. I expect him to stand. You could say that's not a good idea, but if anyone can do it, it's Cyril Gane. If anyone can stand with Francis
I agree with that.
for 5 rounds, give me Cyril Gane all day.
I agree with that. And the reason I don't think he's just going to walk across and take Francis down, as Stipe did, look at who's in Francis' corner his last few fights.
Nick Sick.
Kamar Usman is probably the best wrestler in MMA right now, if we're being honest. So, or if he's not if he's not that guy, he's one of those guys. Mm-hmm. So he's been maybe not training with Usman, but he's been taking notes from Usman. Usman, the whole first round against Stipe, the only thing Usman said from the corner, be calm, be patient, be patient, be patient. Francis, your shot's coming, just be patient. And if you have that guy who's in the back of your head, just be calm, be calm. It's coming. I know he's been talking trash. I know he thinks I hate him because I walked past him one time. I don't hate the guy. I don't give a damn about the guy. So Francis, I don't really care about the guy. I've met him 5-6 times in my life. We sparred together. I knocked him out with a head kick. You didn't put that sparring footage out, Coach Fernando Lopez. Why not? Oh, okay, because your guy didn't look too good. Now and this is one thing I do want to talk about. The storyline of this fight is, in my opinion, if Gane wins, it's another path to victory. If Francis is just in his head, like he was against Derek Lewis, I'll raise you to that. After the Stipe fight, he was a bit broken, came out, said some mental issues, didn't know how to really take a loss at the highest level, especially a championship fight, and just to get dominated. Usually he's the one knocking people unconscious. When you get dominated for 5 rounds, that might be worse than getting knocked out in the first round, honestly. So this whole, let me put the clip out 2 months before they fight. Let me say, Cyril's better than him. He's the best prodigy I've ever had. The coach has been talking and writing a check for Cyril. He's going to have to cash it on Saturday.
Dorian, I think Cyril can cash it, though, because we're not talking about someone like Stipe Miocic, who is a great heavyweight, but Stipe's been touched before, even before he fought Francis. Stipe was knocked out by Stefan Struve in 2012. Stipe has been through the ringer before. He's been in tough battles. Yeah, he was even dropped and hurt by Alistair Overeem. So Stipe's been touched before. We have never seen Cyril be touched. And it's not like Cyril has fought scrubs. He's fought Tanner Boser. All the guys I just mentioned in the last 13 months that he has fought. So it's not smart for a coach to talk more than he should. But if I'm going to write out a check for anybody to cash it, it's going to be the guy who might end up being the greatest striker in heavyweight history.
I agree. I think if Francis fights emotional, he's going to lose, and everything you say is going to come to fruition. Cyril's going to point fight him. It's going to be like bull and matador type of thing. But all matadors know if that bull hits you, it's one of them. It's one of those.
That's what makes it so intriguing.
That's what makes this, to me, not only the greatest fight in heavyweight history, and let me not say that, the greatest matchup in heavyweight history. Because when Derek Lewis and Francis fought, a lot of people were thinking the same thing. Oh, someone's going to sleep. Oh, hardest hitters, 2 knockout kings, and it was the most boring fight ever. If it's one of those, Cyril Gane's 5-0 in Francis. I truly believe that. But Gane's just being himself. He's letting his coach do the talking. He's not saying much. Francis seems a bit irritated by his old coach, but Francis is so calm. He's and by no means am I disrespecting him, but he's a big teddy bear. Mm-hmm. Eric Nixick, his coach, says, his best friend is my son. My son's 6-7 years old. Francis is a lovable guy. Why are you trash talking him? Unless you know it's going to get in his head and you know it's going to work, like his head coach would know, then yeah. It's a series of games. And I wrote that down because I heard an interesting saying. People think life is a game. Life is not a game. Life is a series of games. You win some, you lose some. Francis has been on a winning streak, but his coach is playing a different game. His coach is not going to fight him. His coach is going to fight with his mental that he knows Francis has had issues with in the past. Is it a dirty move? I don't know. When you got a fighter out your gym trying to get a belt, do what you can, because there's only so many belts to go around. And Cyril has an interim one, but Cyril doesn't respect that belt. He doesn't carry the belt around. He did one photo shoot. I haven't seen that belt since. Cyril knows this is the biggest moment of his career. And if Cyril wins, we're going to start talking about him on that pound for pound list, man.
I think if Cyril wins this fight, because Francis, as of last week when we talked about the pound for pound rankings, Francis was 4. Cyril, if he wins, Cyril might be 4.
Yeah, I think he has to take Francis's spot, because pound, and by the literal definition of pound for pound, Cyril Gane is the best fighter in the UFC, because we all say, hey, he moves like a 35 or he moves like a middleweight, but he has the striking prowess of like a karate expert, and he has the grappling. He dropped down and heel hook Dontel Mays the last minute of the fight. Like, so he's piecing everything together so well that pound for pound, no one can beat him unless Francis does. And then if Francis beats him, let's move Francis up, because pound for pound, no one wants to step in the octagon with him. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, this heart says Francis, mine says Cyril. I'm not betting on this fight. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I don't think it would be wise to bet on this fight. The last thing I'll say about this, the winner of this one is the baddest man on the planet. Because if you are the heavyweight champion of the UFC, you are the creme de la creme. There's no one touching you on planet Earth. You can beat everybody. So whoever wins this fight, I think, will stamp themselves as officially the baddest man on Earth.
I see Francis is plus money in this, plus 122.
I'm not touching that, though.
ESPN has him at minus 130, or excuse me, plus 130. There's money to be made. And if you put it on a knockout, I'm sure the odds are even higher. So it's going to be interesting. We'll have the baddest man on the planet walking out. And not for nothing, if Francis wins, he's sticking the UFC up for as much money as possible, because you're not releasing him. You're not letting him fight Tyson Fury. You got to book him, probably the Stipe trilogy, if John Jones doesn't take the fight on the UFC's terms. You almost have to do the Stipe trilogy, because who else is there? I would think maybe Derek Lewis rematch, but he's got a fight booked, just a couple weeks later. So, and if he wins, do we want to see that fight again? Like, I don't know. So this one, extremely, extremely high stakes for both the UFC and Francis and Tyson Fury, and Fernando Lopez. Like, this isn't just big for Gane and Ngannou. Like, this is big for a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of ventures. Similar to Amanda Nunes, Kayla Harrison, big money fight. Pena beats her. Do we really want to see that now? Nah, I'll stay in PFL. I'm leaving ATT. So we don't know how this is going to play out, but I'm excited. This is going to be probably the best card of the year, top to bottom. I feel comfortable saying that as the first card, at least the main card, because this is stars. You got the names, you got the titles, you got the excitement, knockout power, of course, everything needed. And yeah, Ilya is fighting Charles Jourdain. I said Evolov winner, but obviously Jourdain stepped in short notice. But yeah. Anything else you got to get off your chest?
Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. That will be the UFC 270 preview show. So check that out. Dorian, myself will be on it. A bunch of other guys from TWSN will be on it as well. The reason why I'm not saying any names, because I personally don't know who's going to be on it. I don't want to leave anyone out. I know Malik, Daniel, Dash, Nader, but we might have one or two new people, but I don't want to leave anyone out. So that's why I kept it the way it was.
And make sure you guys check out Shop Talk coming up next. Strike submissions, no decisions. Peace.
Get up,